Views and opinions. I'm Romeo.
Hey there, I'm Brooke.
I'm Demi.
And I'm Melissa. On today's report, lawyers for Andrew Brown's family respond to video footage. Judge makes ruling in Derek Chauvin's upcoming sentencing hearing, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees are announced.
We'll break down new mail-in voting restrictions in Arizona, the latest on police reform in Louisiana, and Emmy Award-winning reporter Bill McCreary has passed away. We'll look back at his life.
Plus, news on Colin Kaepernick, Felicia Rashad, the Black Music and Entertainment Walk of Fame, and we have a quadruple dose of Black Girl Magic for you.
Yes, we do. We have all of that and so much more. It's our voice and our truth, so let's talk about it.
To me, this reeks of conflict of interest.
Do we know if he actually waved a gun? We only hear one side of the story.
This just really did make me feel good that the justice system did what they needed to.
We're going to keep following this story, and we will have the latest for you. Here are your headlines for the day. We have more details about what Andrew Brown Jr.'s family attorneys say they saw in the Pasquotank County Sheriff's deputies' body camera footage. You'll remember deputies shot and killed Brown in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And as we first told you yesterday here on FOXSOUL's Black Report, attorney Chance Lynch viewed about 18 minutes of footage in private with Brown's family. Lynch says Brown was sitting in a stationary car with his hands on the wheel when the first of numerous shots was fired. Lynch says the footage contradicts the district attorney's statements in court that deputies didn't start firing until after Brown's vehicle struck them twice. As the AP reports, the three deputies who were involved in the shooting remain on leave pending the probe by the State Bureau of Investigation. 4 others were initially put on leave but have been allowed to return to duty. The sheriff says they didn't fire shots. The FBI has also launched a civil rights probe. Now, the family was not allowed to receive copies, to make any recordings while watching this. The judge also ordered the sheriff to blur faces or name tags of the deputies involved before showing the footage to Brown's family. And you'll remember initially they were allowed to see about 20 seconds of footage. So now we're up to 18 minutes, but it is being reported that there are at least 2 hours in total. So we're still not to any extent having someone on the side of Andrew Brown's family being able to see the full amount of footage. The sheriff, along with lots of media that have filed petitions, obviously along with the family and the family's attorneys, all say they want the video to be made public. But what's happening right now is the judge has ruled that the video cannot be made public, saying turning footage over to the media could affect a potential trial of the law enforcement officers who fired their weapons that day.
Really? Look, at the end of the day, if Andrew Brown Jr. was coming out wilding out, acting a certain way, gunslinging, would they not have shown that right away? Well, this is the reason why we reacted that way. No, they have none of that on the footage. And the fact that you continue to hold what close to 2 hours of footage, still hour and 40 minutes, from the public and from the family, is saying that you're trying to hide something. And we go through this. We've seen this story over and over again. And again, man, the truth is going to have to come out at some point.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really just about transparency, on top of the fact that I just feel like, have we not gone through enough? Have we not seen enough cases? Have we not, watching, George Floyd for that, 2.5 weeks, watching him die over and over again? This story, Breonna Taylor, at some point, whoever is at the top, pulling the strings, there has to be some end to this where you're just dragging us through the mud. And it's really just sad as a Black person in America right now, having to go through this and beg to see what we should have had access to see. Like some cases, they show you the footage right away. Some cases they don't. And it just, I don't even know what to say at this point, because it's just really heartbreaking to have to watch this over and over again. And you have the family, they're saying one thing that they saw, what they saw was that, he did have his hand. He did have his hands on the wheel. He had, it's just too many different stories. And I just feel like the camera footage would show us everying that we need to know.
Yeah. I'm going to make a little prediction here that Merrick Garland's going to step in at some point, because he has, really kind of revitalized the DOJ, and he's really, he's the first person to step into the Breonna Taylor case and look at it from a federal standpoint, and looking at, the entire operation of the, the police department. But I have a feeling that he's going to step in at some point, and we're going to see, officers held accountable, at least on a federal level when it comes to this case.
All right, so Hennepin County District Judge Peter Cahill has ruled that there were aggravating factors in former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's murder of George Floyd last summer, a decision that could prompt a longer prison sentence for Chauvin, according to The Hill. In the ruling, which was filed Tuesday evening, Cahill concluded that Chauvin abused his position of trust and authority as a police officer and displayed particular cruelty when he knelt on Floyd's neck for over 9 minutes, killing him. After a month-long trial that spanned from late March to mid-April, Chauvin was convicted of all 3 criminal counts he was facing: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, as well as second-degree manslaughter. Of course, the aggravating factor, this is definitely new details. But I was reading that even with those factors, they're saying that it's unlikely that he could still get, it's unlikely that he gets more than 30 years, even with these new factors, even the fact that he was charged with violating the rights of that 14-year-old in 2017, which those could possibly go together and he could be served at the same time. But still, it's looking like he might not get more than 30 years. Also, I just want to read something that Cahill wrote. He said, the prolonged use of this technique was particularly egregious in the George Floyd case, and it made it clear that he was unable to breathe, expressed the view that he was dying as a result of the officer's restraint. So, of course, this is, good additional news, but I don't know if it's going to make him be in jail any longer.
I don't even feel like I can, throw a ticker tape parade in celebration of, whatever sentencing he's going to get, because the appeals process is so long and lengthy that I don't know. It's just, I feel like I'm waiting with bated breath constantly that the outcome is, is not what we assume it's going to be. Like, I can't get comfortable with the idea that he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life, and it not be overturned because the trial had so much, media coverage or jury tampering or whatever the case is. Like, I sit and think, when's the other shoe going to drop? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, some people call this a modern day lynching, what he did in front of the world, right? It was devastating to all of us. It hit us so hard. And we all want him to get all the time he deserves. But if he does 40 years, isn't that going to add up somewhere between 10 or 15? Then he's out, right? I think that's the timeline that he may actually do. But, in some cases, I wish we could have had life there, but I don't think we can have that, obviously, otherwise they would have went for that. But this is so sad that we have to continue to talk about this, and we can't move on. And his family never will, because this guy still, at some point, may go home.
And the fact that, the family will never move on because George Floyd has passed on.
Yeah.
That's it. They can never move on from the biggest aspect of this. And also, it just goes to show, we've been calling this one of the biggest, most important trials of our lifetimes, and it is nowhere near over, because not only we don't know what he's going to be sentenced to, what the reaction to that's going to be. And also, there are 3 other former officers that are still set to stand trial in this case. And we are not at all finished talking about just the criminal aspect of this story. Yeah,
maybe going through it all over again in some cases when it happens. All right, civil rights groups are seeking to invalidate a freshly signed Florida law that takes aim at demonstrations that turned violent, arguing in a federal lawsuit filed Tuesday that the new law was racially motivated. They also said the law has already silenced activists wanting to speak out against police misconduct and other concerns facing their communities. According to the AP, the new law, also known as HB1, stiffens penalties for crimes committed during a riot or violent protest. It also allows authorities to detain arrested protesters until a first court appearance, and establishes new felonies for organizing or participating in a violent demonstration. In addition, the law forces local governments to justify any reductions in law enforcement budgets. The lawsuit was filed by the American Civil Liberties Union and the NAACP. They seek to overturn the law on behalf of Dream Defenders, the Florida State Conference of the NAACP, the Black Collective, Black Lives Matter, Alliance Broward, Chainless Change, and the North Side Coalition of Jacksonville. So we're out there, we're protesting for all the right reasons. We have a couple bad apples, or people that's not even part of the protest that's out there just trying to make it look bad. And now they're trying to say it's our fault, and they're trying to make this law to hold us back from doing what we have the right to do.
Absolutely.
And then on top of it, like I said, allowing Governor DeSantis to override decisions to reduce operating budgets for police departments. I feel like there's a secret chat with Trump telling all these governors, these Republicans, what he wants to do,
Yeah.
setting it up for 2022 and 2024.
Yeah, this is disgusting. It's like a complete go around the First Amendment, you know, people's right to free speech and peaceful assembly. And the crazy part is that what we've seen over the course of this year, when it comes to protesting, the people that have been on the offense and started the violence were the cops. It was law enforcement, and anything that was a result, you know, that resulted in, violence was a reaction to the offense taken by law enforcement. So it's so egregious that I can't. I can't.
They're doing whatever they can.
Yeah.
You know, according to the New York Times, GOP lawmakers have introduced 81 anti-protest bills in at least 34 states just in the months since the protest after George Floyd was killed.
Unbelievable.
It's a big number, right?
Yeah.
Huge. All right, well, with no votes to spare, the Louisiana House agreed Tuesday to place new limits on police officers' wide immunity from civil lawsuits after black lawmakers made emotional pleas for passage of the bill aimed at addressing police misconduct. Democratic Representative Edmund Jordan, who is black and sponsored the bill, said that his white colleagues, we live in two different Americas, we live in two different Louisianas. And some of the issues we have to face, I hope you never have to face. The House voted 53-42 for Jordan's bill to put new restraints on qualified immunity available to law enforcement officers as a defense against damage claims for wrongful death or injury. Jordan's bill would not allow qualified immunity as a defense for claims or wrongful death or injury caused by a police officer if a court determines the officer's conduct to be unreasonable. It also would expand what's considered malfeasance for a police officer. So I just want to, go into what the definition of malfeasance is. It's intentional conduct that is wrongful or unlawful, especially by officials or public employees. Malfeasance is a higher level of wrongdoing. More than what's called nonfeasance, failure to act where there was a duty to act, or misfeasance, conduct that is lawful but inappropriate. So it's going to be interesting to see how they widen the scope of the definition of malfeasance and, what's going to be considered to be wrongful misconduct at this point, because it's kind of like, it's almost like a morality judgment, you know what I mean? And who, in fact, are the morality police? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting. So, of course, when I was reading this, this moves to the Senate next week. When I was reading this, at first, we talk about qualified immunity a lot on the show. And at first I was like, wow, okay, great. This is a win. But then, of course, peeling back a little bit of the layers, doing a little bit more digging, before it got a chance to go to the Senate, there was an amendment to the bill that pretty much makes plaintiffs responsible for covering the defendant's court fees if they lose the lawsuit. So that was brought by an opponent of the bill. He's a Republican. His name is Bryant Fontenot. And so he said this was his way of protecting police officers from frivolous lawsuits. So what this is going to do in turn, it's like we take one step forward and then we take 3 steps back, because of course this is going to make victims of police brutality afraid to want to go forward and take legal action, because then if I lose it, I have to pay for your legal fees, my legal fees. And it's like, I don't know if I'm feeling like this is a win anymore. I don't know how you guys feel.
Loopholes.
Yeah.
Wow, unbelievable.